Developing musicianship online.
Hello, and welcome back to DM Online. Today we're going to explore further the Ableton Lite software with the APC40 console and with the MkII Mini from Akai for our keyboard. The main focus today is on the way in which we develop layers to transition between different parts of our song when we're doing a live type pad-based looping construction or composition. So best we get straight into it. Let's go. First of all, we'll need to unpack how the Ableton Live software has been set up. You'll notice if you saw my previous episode that the colors shown as buttons on the console have now changed. They're different colors and they do some different things. So a lot of this has been to save a bit of time today. I've got some of the same setup as we had set last time. For example, these red buttons here do the same set of sounds as they did before. The drum. This was a bass line that came in after the original bass line. This was to replace the other bass line so that there's a simpler bass line to start with. This is the same keyboard that we had last time and the same string pad that's been put into synth. Okay, so that's the first layer. The second layer is the original bass line with some varied other parts. So this is the original bass line. This is a drum pattern with some adjustments. This one is the other bass part that's got a slightly more complex rhythm to it. Only complex when it's combined with the other bass. So it's kind of an optional thing if I can flick between the basses or I can have them both going together in like a polyrhythmic thing. And then there's the string part, which is just a sustained thing to get out of the way, slightly more complex chords. The third line has been created to break down to a less complicated thing. It's probably best I play all. So the play all switch is on the right hand side where it says scene launch. So in that, the bass has been simplified, the drums have been simplified, and that keyboard just goes to that constant note with a crescendo through it. And then we've got this last layer, which is a finish phrase. So the way I like to structure my pad is to make sure I have a way to get out of the looping. So something that sounds like it's complete. And the way to do that is to make sure that when you set up your part, that you don't turn on the loop component or you turn off the loop component. The loop is going to automatically come. Now you might remember last time we were together, I set up a button to switch on and off loops. So I've used that button to just trigger off the loops on all those channels. So therefore it all comes to a conclusion. Now, on top of that, we have these three purple buttons here. These are here because when I want to use a layer, I'm going to use these things, which play everything in that row, So if I was to keep these purple buttons up in this spot here, they're going to play when my loops are playing. But these have been designed to be independent of all of the looping. They're the voice grabs from the show. So this is the transposed version of the theme song.
DM, developing musicianship online.
Once you start transposing, it's very hard to get it back to the original pitch. This is a reduction of that waveform, and you'll see that in the actual, if I open it here, this is a reduction of it, so the first part.
DM.
And then this is the second part in the other channel.
Developing musicianship online.
Okay, so I don't want any of them to happen at the same time. In addition to this, there is some adjustments to the control knobs. So we've still got the loop that can be switched on and off here. Transpose. Over here is control over our delay. So if we've got delay on, this knob is going to control our B send in the channel. So that's the delay.
PM.
So if I want delay, I just turn that up. But now I can control the amount of delay as well. So this knob here is going to control the feedback from 0 to 100%. And this is the wet dry signal. So I can mix more of it in and I can make it really extreme.
PM.
And I can pull it out using the wet dry signal. And it keeps going until you hit stop. And get rid of the feedback. So with all of those options sitting before me, I should be able to create an inspired composition with some elements of improvisation on the MkII Mini. And if I'm going to improvise, I'm going to make sure I have my track selected, and then I can play live, or I could go and record it. I've kind of filled up all my holes for recording things, so ideally it'll be just singular things I'll play and then forget about them and just keep working with the loops I've got. So I can do that, and then I can manipulate these sounds. So with a DM. So I've got manipulation power. Okay, so let's see what happens when we combine all that into a live and somewhat improvised performance.
DM. Developing musicianship online. DM. Developing musicianship online. Developing musicianship online. Developing musicianship online. DM.
So there you go. That's the interactive nature of the APC when you've got the layers set up and you've got some concepts of contrast going on in there that you can choose from. And then it's very much about exploring sounds and altering sounds. There's lots of scope for the effects side of things too, and if I had the full version of Ableton, I would be able to actually increase the number of effects per channel. So at the moment I'm getting an A and B send, but with the full version you can have as many of those effects plugged in as you like. One of the hardest things is making sure the play for the loop matches up with where beat 1 is, because if you hit play on a launch for the scene, it automatically starts, well, close to automatic, not close enough sometimes. But in effect, if you preempt that latency, you can actually end up jumping in earlier than you planned. So you may notice in that demo that a couple of times the beat 1 was not quite where beat 1 should have been, because the computer's trying to jump straight in as soon as that button's pushed. That's probably the greatest challenge to it, and then obviously being able to get around the different instruments and to manipulate the whole space. And so you've really got to know your setup and know your equipment. Anyway, it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and hopefully I'll see you next time when we're going to go and have a look at Logic Pro. So till then, bye bye.
The Musicianship Online.